I never imagined the day I had waited for all my life would start with my father's angry voice echoing across the hall. The convocation ceremony was meant to be a celebration, the end of 4 hard years that had tested every part of me. When he arrived, 30 minutes late, heads turned. I thought he came to surprise me, maybe even to make peace after months of silence. Instead, he looked straight at me, his eyes sharp, his jaw tight, and said, "You are full of disappointment, shame on you." Gasps filled the air. I felt every word burn through the air like fire. 10 minutes later, as the dean handed out awards, he muttered, "Piece of shit," and walked out. My heart shattered. My classmates glanced at me, unsure if they should clap or look away. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to sit still. Then something changed. 2 minutes after he left, the hall fell silent again. My name was called. The name he had given me, the one he believed would never amount to anything, echoed through the speakers. Everyone stood up and clapped. My knees trembled, but I stood tall. That was the moment everything I had hidden began to unfold. For months before that day, my father and I had barely spoken. He was once a proud man, strict, respected, feared. But somewhere along the way, pride turned into bitterness. After my mother died, he poured his pain into anger, and I became the easiest target. To him, I was weak, too emotional, too slow to follow his path. He wanted me to study law like he did, but I chose architecture. That was the first betrayal in his eyes. He used to say, "Dreams don't feed families," while I stayed up late drawing buildings that only existed in my imagination. When I got a scholarship for my designs, he didn't congratulate me. He said, "Let's see how long you last." Every award I earned, he dismissed as luck. So when he walked into that hall, I wanted him to see me, really see me for who I had become. But instead, he tore into me before my classmates, before professors who had written glowing recommendations about my work. I sat frozen, pretending not to hear the whispers. Yet deep inside, I made a promise to myself. That was the last day he would define my worth. The applause still rang in my ears long after I left the stage. Cameras flashed, teachers smiled, and the air smelled of flowers and pride. Yet inside, I was trembling. My father's words replayed in my head like a broken record, full of disappointment. How many times had I heard that phrase growing up? As a child, I tried to win his approval with perfect grades, clean shoes, and silence at the dinner table. Still, nothing was enough. When Mom was alive, she softened his edges. She'd tell me, "He only knows how to love through discipline." But after her passing, the discipline turned to disdain. Now, as I stood among friends taking pictures, my phone buzzed. A message from him. "Don't come home until you learn respect." My throat tightened. I smiled for one last photo, pretending I didn't care. But I did. I walked to the corner of the hall, where my design models were displayed. The golden plaque under them read, "Best Innovation in Sustainable Housing." That award was my mother's dream come true, not his. My fingers brushed the engraved letters, and I whispered, "This is for you, Mom." After the ceremony, the celebration spilled into the campus garden. Music played, laughter filled the air, and everyone's families hugged them proudly. Everyone's but mine. I stood alone by the fountain, clutching the certificate that had taken 4 years of sleepless nights. I told myself I didn't need him there to feel complete, but a part of me still looked toward the gate, hoping he'd come back. Then someone called my name. It was Dean Fletcher, the head of architecture. He was smiling widely. "You did it," he said. "Your project caught more attention than you realize." I tried to smile back, unsure what he meant. "There's someone who wants to meet you tomorrow," he continued. "A representative from the Global Urban Design Initiative. They're impressed." My heart raced. That name was huge. It meant opportunity beyond imagination. "But keep it quiet for now," he added. "They want to announce it at the gala tomorrow night." I nodded, suddenly aware that the night wasn't over. My father's words had crushed me, but fate seemed to have prepared its own reply. I didn't know it then, but that secret meeting would change not only my career, but my family forever. That night, I couldn't sleep. The city lights blinked through my dorm window as I replayed every detail. My father's anger, the applause, the dean's mysterious words. Somewhere between sadness and hope, I felt a spark I hadn't felt in years, defiance mixed with purpose. I opened my old sketchbook, the one Mom had given me when I was 14. Inside were the first drawings of the floating homes design that had won me the award. Each line told a story of resilience. I remembered the night I almost gave up, when Dad said architecture was a hobby for dreamers. Mom had hugged me and whispered, "Prove that dreamers build the future." I whispered those words again now. Tomorrow would be my chance. I wrote a message to my father, but didn't send it. Someday you'll see what disappointment looks like from the other side. As dawn broke, I packed my sketches, tied my hair, and looked in the mirror. The reflection staring back wasn't the scared child he had belittled. It was someone ready to rise. Whatever happened next, I would walk into it with my head high. The next morning, sunlight poured through my window like a quiet promise. I wore my simplest clothes, jeans and a white shirt, but carried my portfolio as if it were gold. The dean had told me to be at his office by 10. My heart raced the whole walk there. I wondered if Dad had seen the news about my award. I checked my phone, no message, no missed call. Just silence. When I reached the office, Dean Fletcher wasn't alone. A woman in a dark suit stood beside him. "This is Mrs. Holbrook," he said. "She's with the Global Urban Design Initiative." She shook my hand firmly. "Your project is bold," she said. "We think it could help communities near the coastal flood zones." My throat went dry. She continued, "We'd like to sponsor your design for our international showcase in Geneva." Geneva. I almost laughed out of shock. My father had once said I'd never step beyond our city's borders. Now strangers across the world wanted to see my work. "We'll send the formal invitation to your email," Mrs. Holbrook said. "But keep it quiet until the official announcement tomorrow." I nodded, clutching my sketchbook tighter. The secret was growing heavier and brighter by the minute. Walking back to my dorm, I felt like my heart was dancing between joy and disbelief. Geneva. The name felt unreal, like a dream too bright to touch. I wanted to scream it to the world, but I remembered the dean's warning. "Keep it quiet." My phone buzzed again. A message from my cousin, Maya. "Your dad is furious." He left the hall cursing. Everyone saw. My chest tightened. I typed, "I don't care anymore," but deleted it. I did care. Deep down, I wanted him to be proud, even if I pretended not to. That night, as the campus prepared for the gala, I helped my friends set up decorations. Music echoed through the courtyard, and the smell of roasted corn filled the air. For once, I tried to forget everything. But near midnight, I overheard two teachers whispering. "She's the one they're sending abroad," one said. "Her father doesn't even know yet." My hands froze. The secret was spreading. I looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, Mom was smiling. Somewhere, Dad was fuming. And tomorrow, when the world found out, he would realize I wasn't the failure he thought I was. I was his greatest surprise. The morning of the gala arrived with golden light and butterflies in my stomach. Everyone was buzzing with excitement. Posters of graduates lined the hall, and my name was printed beside a picture of my model. I wore the same blue dress my mom had sewn before she passed. It fit perfectly now, as if it had waited for this day. My hands trembled while applying lipstick. I told myself, no matter what happens, tonight belongs to me. By 6 in the evening, the hall was filled with families, professors, and guests from different cities. I spotted Dean Fletcher near the stage. He caught my eye and nodded, our secret signal. I took a deep breath. Then suddenly I saw him, my father, standing near the back, arms crossed, eyes cold. My stomach sank. What was he doing here? Maya must have told him. He didn't smile, didn't wave, just watched, like a judge waiting for a verdict. I forced myself to stand tall. If he wanted a show, I'd give him one. The lights dimmed, and the host began speaking. My heart thudded. Tonight would either heal everything or break me completely. As the program began, speeches echoed across the hall. I clapped along, though my palms were sweaty. My father hadn't moved. His face looked carved from stone. When my name was mentioned among the top graduates, I caught a flicker in his eyes, anger, surprise, or maybe disbelief. Then came the special announcement. The host smiled widely. And now, a special recognition from the Global Urban Design Initiative. Gasps filled the room. The dean stepped forward, holding an envelope. This year, he said, a graduate's design caught international attention. Her project on floating housing will represent our country in Geneva. He paused, eyes scanning the crowd. Please stand and applaud, miss. The pause felt endless. My chest pounded. My father straightened slightly. Miss Amara Blake. The hall erupted. Everyone stood, clapping, cheering. Cameras flashed. I froze for a second, then rose slowly. My name echoed through the hall, the same name my father had spat with shame just a day before. I glanced at him. His mouth parted slightly, but he didn't move. I could see the storm in his eyes. For once, he had no words. The applause swallowed everything else. After the ceremony, people surrounded me. Journalists, professors, even strangers wanted photos. I smiled until my cheeks hurt, but my mind kept drifting to him, standing alone, silent, near the exit. When the crowd thinned, I gathered courage and walked toward him. He didn't clap or smile. So, he said quietly, you hid this from me? I swallowed hard. You never asked. His eyes narrowed. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. I didn't, I whispered. You embarrassed yourself when you called me a disappointment. The words slipped out before I could stop them. He blinked, surprised. Then he looked around as if the walls were closing in. Don't speak to me like that, he said sharply. Then stop treating me like I'm nothing. For a moment, I thought he'd shout again, but he didn't. He turned and walked out without another word. I watched his back disappear into the night. The applause from earlier still echoed faintly in my ears, mixing with the ache in my chest. For the first time, I didn't cry. I just stood there, realizing that sometimes silence is louder than anger. The night breeze brushed my face as I stepped outside. Streetlights painted long shadows across the pavement. I could still see his car parked at the far end of the road, engine humming. For a second, I thought he might roll down the window, maybe call my name. He didn't. Instead, the car pulled away slowly until the taillights vanished into the dark. I stood there, clutching my purse, breathing through the ache. The applause had faded, the cameras were gone, and only silence remained. Back in my dorm, my friends were celebrating. They screamed, hugged me, took selfies, and promised to follow my journey online. I smiled, but my heart was somewhere else, at that gate where my father had left again. I sat on my bed and opened my laptop. My inbox glowed with a new message, official invitation to the Global Urban Design Conference, Geneva. The letters felt unreal. I whispered, Mom, are you seeing this? Then, like a gentle answer, a breeze lifted the curtain. I knew what I had to do next, accept the offer, travel, and carry our story beyond the shadows of disappointment. But deep down, I wished he'd be there when I boarded that plane. The following week passed like a dream. Reporters called, magazines asked for interviews, and my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I tried to enjoy it all, but every success reminded me of his silence. My father hadn't spoken a word since that night, not even a text. Maya visited me one evening. He's not angry, she said gently. He's confused. You broke his picture of you. I frowned. Picture? He always saw you as the kid who needed his guidance. Now he's realizing you don't. That hit me harder than his words at the hall. Maybe all his anger came from fear that I no longer needed him. Before leaving, Maya handed me an envelope. He told me to give you this. Inside was a small silver key and a folded note, for your mother's studio. You'll know what to do. My pulse quickened. The old studio had been locked since Mom's funeral. He never let me go in. Why now? I spent the whole night staring at the key, wondering if it was peace or another storm, waiting to be opened. The next morning, I went to the old studio at the back of our family house. It felt strange walking through the gate again. The air smelled of wet grass and old memories. Dust covered the windows, and vines curled around the door frame. I slid the key into the rusty lock. It clicked open easily, almost as if it had been waiting. Inside, sunlight streamed through cracked glass. Mom's easel stood in the corner, her unfinished painting still resting on it. My throat tightened. I walked around slowly, touching the brushes, the jars of dried paint, the sketches pinned to the wall. Then I noticed a brown envelope taped under the table. My name was written in Mom's handwriting. Hands shaking, I opened it. Inside was a letter. My dearest Amara, if you're reading this, you've followed your heart. Don't let anyone's shadow dull your light. Even your father's. Tears blurred the words. At the bottom, she had drawn a small sun. For the first time in years, I felt her presence clearly, soft, warm, guiding. I realized Dad must have found the letter earlier, but never opened it. Maybe that's why he gave me the key. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the letter. I placed it beside my pillow and stared at the ceiling. My father had held on to this secret for years. Maybe he wasn't ready to face it. Maybe he thought it would break me. Instead, it made me stronger. The next morning, I packed my suitcase for Geneva. My passport, sketches, and the letter went inside. My flight was 2 days away, and the school was hosting a small farewell party for me. Invitations were printed, but I decided to send one last, special invitation. I typed a short message to my father. Farewell party, Saturday, 6 p.m. If you come, just listen before you speak. Then I hit send and placed the phone face down. All day, I tried not to check for reply. When none came, I told myself it was fine. I had learned to expect silence. Still, a small part of me hoped he would walk through the door, even if it was just to stand quietly in the back. Maybe the same way he had appeared at my convocation, only this time, not with anger, but understanding. Saturday came fast. The air was cool, carrying the smell of rain. The hall buzzed with laughter as classmates toasted and teachers gave speeches. I smiled through every picture, pretending not to glance at the door every few seconds. 6 o'clock. No sign of him. 7 o'clock. Still nothing. My heart sank, but I refused to let it ruin the night. When the dean called me to give a short thank you speech, I stepped onto the stage, holding Mom's letter in my hand. 4 years ago, I walked into this school with nothing but a dream. Today, that dream is taking me further than I ever imagined. But it didn't happen alone. I paused, scanning the crowd. It happened because someone once told me I was a disappointment, and that pain became my fire. Gasps filled the room. If that person is here tonight, I want to say thank you. You made me stronger. Just then, the door creaked open. A familiar figure stepped in quietly, eyes lowered. My heart skipped. He was there. I smiled and continued. This party continues, but the invitation was concealed for a reason. The crowd clapped, unaware of the storm and healing unfolding at once. When the applause faded, I stepped down from the stage. My heart raced as I walked toward him. He stood by the door, his coat damp from the drizzle outside. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he whispered, "I didn't deserve that thank you." I smiled weakly. Maybe not, but it was true. We sat at a quiet table in the corner while others danced and laughed. He stared at his hands. "I found your mother's letter years ago," he said slowly. "I couldn't bring myself to give it to you. I thought it would make you hate me more." "It wouldn't," I said softly. "It would have helped me understand." His eyes glistened. "When I called you a disappointment, I wasn't angry at you. I was angry at myself for not being the father your mother believed I could be." The music grew louder, but the noise faded around us. For the first time in years, we talked without shields. He told me how he'd watched every news story about my award but couldn't face the guilt. "I wanted to fix things," he said. "Then start by showing up," I replied. "Not perfectly, just honestly." He nodded, eyes heavy with regret and relief. The night stretched on with gentle music and quiet laughter. My friends waved goodbye one by one until only a few of us remained. My father offered to drive me home, and I agreed. The ride was silent at first, the kind of silence that holds words neither of us knew how to speak. Halfway through the drive, he said, "Your mother would be proud." I turned to look at him. "I think she already is." He gave a small nod. "When she was sick, she told me you'd carry both our dreams someday." I laughed at her. "I told her you'd end up quitting halfway." I was wrong. The streetlights flickered across his face, showing years of exhaustion and guilt. For once, I didn't feel the need to argue. The pain had already done its teaching. When we reached my apartment, he didn't rush to leave. Instead, he looked at me and said, "I don't know if you can forgive me." "Forgiveness isn't something I give," I said softly. "It's something we rebuild bit by bit." He smiled faintly. "Then maybe we can start tomorrow." As he drove away, I realized that sometimes healing doesn't arrive with apologies. It begins with presence. The next morning, sunlight streamed through my curtains. My flight to Geneva was the following day. I brewed coffee, sat by the window, and reread Mom's letter. Every word felt like a bridge connecting the past to the future. Then my phone buzzed, a message from Dad. "Breakfast?" "My treat. I'll behave this time." I smiled. Maybe he was trying. At the cafe, he looked out of place among the bright walls and chatter, but his eyes softened when he saw me. "I wanted to give you something," he said, handing me a small box. Inside was Mom's silver bracelet, the one she wore every Sunday. "She said you'd know when to wear it," he murmured. I traced the delicate pattern. "You kept this all these years?" "I wasn't ready to let go," he admitted. "Now I think it belongs where it started." We talked for hours, about her, about my travels, about everything we'd missed. When it was time to leave, he said, "You don't have to come back because of me. Go live the life she dreamed for you." I hugged him tightly. "I will. But this time, you'll be part of it." Airport mornings always felt cold and unreal. The intercom echoed names I didn't recognize, and my suitcase rolled beside me like a loyal friend. I checked in, passed security, and waited at the gate with a quiet heart. As I sat there, I remembered the first time I showed my father my design sketches. He'd called them childish doodles. Now those same sketches had earned me an international award. Life was funny that way. It humbled you before it lifted you. Just as I was about to board, my phone vibrated. A message from Dad. "You make the Caldwell name worth something again. Make the world see what your mother saw." Tears filled my eyes. For the first time, I read his words without anger. I typed back, "I already have. But thank you for finally seeing it." As the plane lifted off, I looked down at the fading city lights. Every cloud we passed felt like a chapter closing, every ray of sunlight like a new beginning. I whispered, "I'm no longer your disappointment, Dad. I'm my own pride now." Geneva felt like another planet. Snowflakes kissed my cheeks as I stepped out of the airport. The air smelled clean, fresh, full of promise. The conference hall was huge, filled with designers from all over the world. I felt small but also ready. During my presentation, I showed the model that had started it all, the community bridge design I'd drawn in my tiny dorm room. I spoke about connection, about rebuilding trust, about how broken things could still hold beauty. When I finished, the room went silent. Then applause thundered. Cameras flashed. Reporters rushed forward. Someone said, "She's the youngest to ever win this category." In that moment, I didn't see the crowd. I saw my mother's smile and my father's face softening at last. Later that night, as snow fell outside my hotel window, I slipped on Mom's bracelet. Its silver glow reflected the city lights. I sent a photo to Dad with one line, "For both of you." Seconds later, his reply came, "Proud doesn't even begin to cover it." I smiled through tears. The little girl he once called a disappointment had become the woman her parents dreamed she'd be. The next morning, I woke to sunlight spilling across the white curtains. Geneva felt unreal, like I was walking through one of my old dreams. The award plaque rested on the nightstand beside me, shining faintly. I picked it up, tracing the engraved letters with my finger. Amara Blake, Global Urban Design Innovator. It didn't feel like my name at first. It felt like someone else's, someone stronger. I remembered sitting in my father's car years ago, crying because he'd said I'd never make it anywhere. The memory didn't hurt anymore. It just felt distant, like an old bruise that had faded. After breakfast, I walked through the city. The bridges over Lake Geneva reminded me of my design, symbols of connection. I thought about Dad, how he'd finally said he was proud. For years, I had chased those words like sunlight through clouds. Now that I had them, I realized they weren't what made me whole. What made me whole was finally believing in myself. That night, as snow began to fall again, I wrote in my journal, "I'm not who I was when this began. I'm who I was always meant to become." A week later, the university hosted an online ceremony to celebrate my award. I joined from my hotel room, my laptop propped on a stack of books. Dean Fletcher spoke first, his voice proud. Amara Blake reminds us that courage often begins in silence. When he said my name, the chat window flooded with congratulations from students and professors. But one name made my heart skip. Dad, join meeting. He didn't type anything at first. Then, suddenly, a short message appeared. "Proud of you, kid." The screen blurred as tears filled my eyes. I didn't need to see his face to feel the warmth in his words. I unmuted myself. "Thank you," I said softly, though I wasn't sure if he heard. After the call ended, I sat there for a long time. The silence felt peaceful now, not heavy. For the first time in years, my father and I weren't separated by anger. We were just two people learning how to find each other again, one word at a time. I looked out the window at the city lights and whispered, "We made it, Mom." Returning home a month later felt like stepping into a new life. The same streets, same faces, but everything looked different. People stopped me on the way, calling me the girl from Geneva. Even my old teachers wanted photos. Dad was waiting outside my apartment, wearing the same brown jacket he'd worn to my graduation. But this time he smiled. "Can I carry that?" he asked, pointing to my suitcase. "Sure," I said, handing it to him. His hands shook slightly as he took it. "I made your favorite stew," he said nervously. "If you're not too busy." We spent the evening eating together, laughing over old memories. He showed me a small photo album he'd made, pictures of me from childhood to now. "I didn't know you kept all these," I said. He looked down, embarrassed. "I kept everything, Amara. I just didn't know how to say I cared." My heart softened. "You just did." Later that night, as I left, he hugged me tightly. "You're not a disappointment," he whispered. "You never were." The words landed softly, like rain after a long drought. Months passed, and my life bloomed in ways I never expected. My designs gained attention across cities. Schools invited me to speak about creativity and resilience. Every time I stood before a new crowd, I remembered the girl who once trembled under her father's words. Dad started volunteering at a local youth center. He'd tell me stories about the kids, how one of them wanted to be an engineer, how another loved art but lacked confidence. "They remind me of you," he said once, smiling shyly. We became closer in small, quiet ways: Sunday calls, coffee dates, late-night talks. I no longer looked for his approval. I enjoyed his presence instead. One evening, as we watched the sunset from his porch, he said, "I used to think success was what people saw. You taught me it's what you feel when you stop running from yourself." I smiled. We both stopped running. He nodded, eyes glistening. And I finally caught up. The world around us glowed orange, soft and forgiving. For the first time, it felt like peace wasn't something we found, it was something we built, together. A year after that unforgettable night, I returned to the same hall for a new convocation. This time, I was the guest speaker. As I stepped on stage, I looked out at the sea of young faces, dreamers, fighters, believers. I shared my story carefully, not about pain, but about persistence. I spoke of moments when silence felt safer than truth, and how courage sometimes sounds like your own name spoken with pride. Then I said, there was a day my father called me a disappointment. But 2 minutes later, a room full of people stood up for me, and in that moment, I realized something. You don't need the whole world to believe in you. You just need to start believing first." The hall went quiet, then erupted in applause. Near the back, I saw him, my father, standing tall, clapping the loudest. As I smiled at him, I thought of my mother's words in her letter. "One day, your light will be too bright for anyone to dim." The party continued, laughter filling the hall, but this time, the invitation wasn't concealed. It was open to every dreamer who once felt small, including me.